Tutankhamun's mask is an icon. And I think part of it is because it is made of solid gold, and a lot of people get wowed by that.
King Tut's mask is the most famous face on Earth. For a century, we believed it was made for the boy king, but we were wrong. Recently, scientists used a revolutionary new technology, quantum imaging, to scan beneath its golden surface. What they found is sending shockwaves through Egyptology. The scan revealed hidden details, microscopic alterations, and a ghost-like signature erased from history. This isn't just a discovery, it's the unraveling of a 3,000-year-old cover-up. The mask everyone loves is hiding a secret that changes everything we thought we knew about ancient Egypt's golden age. Cracks in the golden face. Inside was a dazzling collection of treasures, golden chariots, jewels, statues, and a royal throne. But buried deep within the innermost of 3 coffins lay the one object that would capture the world's imagination forever: the golden death mask. This thing is breathtaking. It stands about 21 inches tall and weighs over 22 pounds. That's more than a bowling ball made of solid gold. It's inlaid with precious stones like lapis lazuli and turquoise. For the ancient Egyptians, this wasn't just art, it was sacred technology. They believed gold was the flesh of the gods. The mask's job was to protect the pharaoh's mummy and to help his soul recognize its own body in the afterlife. Without it, his spirit could be lost forever. On the back, there's even a magic spell from the Book of the Dead carved in hieroglyphs to protect him. For decades, the world saw this mask as a perfect, flawless masterpiece, the ultimate symbol of ancient Egypt's power. But here's the catch. Almost immediately, experts noticed things that just didn't add up. The crazy part is the clues were hidden in plain sight. First, there was the problem of time. King Tut passed away suddenly around age 19, likely from an infection after a bad leg break. According to Egyptian beliefs, a pharaoh had to be mummified and buried in exactly 70 days. Think about that. 70 days to carve a tomb, build 3 coffins, gather thousands of artifacts, and create this solid gold mask. It seemed impossible. The tomb itself backed up this rush job theory. It was tiny, much smaller than any other pharaoh's tomb. Some of the paintings on the walls looked unfinished, like the artists just dropped their brushes and ran. Even the huge stone sarcophagus was chipped on the corners, as if workers got to smash it just to make it fit into the cramped room. This led experts to look closer at the treasures, and get this, many of them didn't seem to be made for Tut at all. They found statues with faces that looked different. They found jewelry that seemed to be made for a woman. Then they looked at the mask again. The biggest clue? The ears. The mask has pierced ears. In ancient Egypt, only children and women wore earrings. An adult male pharaoh, especially on his sacred burial mask, would never be shown with pierced ears. It was a massive red flag. Some experts also pointed out that the face itself seemed off. The features were delicate, almost feminine, and the gold on the face had a slightly different color, a bit redder than the gold on the rest of the headdress. A shocking theory began to form. What if the mask wasn't made for Tut? What if, in the panic of the 70-day deadline, the priests just grabbed a mask made for someone else, quickly altered it, and stuck it on Tut's mummy? This raised the biggest question of all. If the mask wasn't Tut's, whose was it? All eyes turned to one of the most mysterious and powerful women in history, Queen Nefertiti. She was Tut's stepmother, and after her husband's passing, she completely vanished from the records. Some historians believe she actually became pharaoh, ruling under a new name. What if this mask was originally made for her? It would explain the pierced ears and the feminine features. For decades, this was the biggest debate in Egyptology. Was the world's most famous artifact a masterpiece or a hand-me-down? For decades, it was just a theory. Then X-rays seemed to end the debate completely. The beard and the beeswax.
The debate over the mask raged on for most of the 20th century. The Nefertiti theory was exciting, but there was no way to prove it without, well, damaging the priceless mask, and nobody was going to let that happen. The mask sat in the Egyptian Museum in Cairo, admired by millions, its secrets locked away. Then, in 2014, disaster struck. It was a story that horrified the entire world. During a routine cleaning, the mask's long braided beard, itself a symbol of divinity, snapped clean off. Museum staff panicked. Instead of calling in expert conservators, they tried to fix it themselves, and they used the worst thing possible, epoxy. That's the industrial-strength glue you use for plumbing or fixing a car. They globbed it on, stuck the beard back, and hoped no one would notice. Everyone noticed. The crazy part is, they even smeared some of the glue on the golden chin. Egypt's greatest treasure, which had survived for over 3,300 years, had been damaged by a tube of hardware store glue. The backlash was massive. The world freaked out, and that's putting it lightly. The Egyptian government had to step in. They launched a full investigation and brought in a team of top international experts, led by a German conservator named Christian Ekman. His job was to undo the damage and save the mask. But Ekman realized this disaster was also an opportunity. Before reattaching the beard, he would finally get a chance to study the mask in a way no one ever had. He would use modern science to answer the Nefertiti question once and for all. His team didn't just use regular X-rays, they used high-resolution X-ray fluorescence, or XRF. This technique beams X-rays at an object, which makes the atoms fluoresce and tell you exactly what elements are inside. It can read the chemical fingerprint of the gold. So, here's the deal. If the face had been cut out of Nefertiti's mask and a new face for Tut soldered in, the XRF scan would show it. The gold alloys would be different. There would be solder marks, tiny seams, and other signs of alteration. The team spent months scanning every inch of the mask. The results came in, and the entire field of Egyptology sighed in relief. Ekman's findings were clear. The mask was not altered. First, the gold. The XRF scan proved that the gold in the face and the gold in the headdress were a perfect match. They came from the same batch of metal. The slight color difference people saw was just a trick of the light or a deliberate choice by the artist. Second, the nameplate. The hieroglyphs spelling Tutankhamun were original. There was no evidence of another name being scraped off or hammered flat underneath. But the final clue was the most brilliant. Ekman pointed to the delicate blue stripes around the eyes and on the headdress. Those are made of fragile colored glass. If a new face had been soldered onto the mask, the intense heat, we're talking over 1,500 degrees Fahrenheit, would have instantly cracked or melted that glass. But the glass was perfect, untouched.
The conclusion was unavoidable. The mask was made as a single piece specifically for King Tut. So what about the pierced ears? Ekman argued it was just a style choice, or maybe a holdover from Tut's childhood. Basically, science had solved the mystery. The Nefertiti theory was dead. The story was that Egypt's artisans were just that good. They had managed to create this flawless 22-pound masterpiece from scratch in just 70 days. Ekman's team carefully removed the epoxy and, in a beautiful final touch, reattached the beard using beeswax, the same natural adhesive the ancient Egyptians would have used. The mask was whole again, and the mystery was closed. Everyone accepted this until a new technology changed the game forever. Peering into the gold, Ekman's report became the final word. The case was closed. The tour guides, the history books, the documentaries, they all repeated the new official story. The mask was 100% Tut's. It's not that simple, though. For a small group of physicists and Egyptologists, something still felt wrong. The 70-day timeline, the tiny tomb, the recycled coffins, and most of all, the pierced ears. Ekman's explanation that it was just a style felt weak. It was a loose end in an otherwise tidy story. The problem, they argued, wasn't Ekman's data, it was his technology. X-rays and XRF scanners are amazing, but they have limits. They're great at seeing density. They can tell the difference between gold and solder or see a crack. But what if the ancient artisans were smarter than that? What if they used the exact same batch of gold to plug the ear holes? What if they hammered the original name flat and then recarved it without adding any new metal? What if the face was attached with such skill that the seams were microscopically perfect? X-rays would see all of this as one solid, uniform object. They can't see the history of the metal. They can't tell if one part was reheated or hammered, while another part was left alone. To see that, you would need a whole new level of technology. And get this, a new technology had just been perfected. It's called quantum resonance imaging, or QRI. To put it simply, it doesn't just take a picture, it fires a beam of contained quantum particles at an object. These particles ping the individual atoms like a tiny sonar. By reading the echo of those atoms, the machine can build a 3D map not just of the material, but of its molecular structure and thermal history. It can tell the difference between metal that was poured and cooled once and metal that was cooled, reheated, hammered, and then cooled again. It could, in theory, find a seam that was only a few atoms thick. A secret team funded by a private university and working under the code name Project Osiris got permission from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities to perform a new, non-invasive scan. This was just a test of the technology. They weren't expecting to find anything. They just wanted to prove their expensive new machine worked. In late 2024, after the Grand Egyptian Museum had closed for the night, the team wheeled in the massive QRI scanner. They focused the beam on the mask for hours. The only sound was the low hum of the machine as it scanned the gold, one atomic layer at a time. The team leader watched the data stream onto the laptop, mostly just confirming what Ekman had already found. Then, the scanner focused on the cartouche, the oval containing Tut's name. The first images came back.
The team leader dropped his coffee. What the quantum scan revealed. The data from the quantum scan didn't just challenge the old X-ray findings, it shattered them. The Project Osiris team stared at their screens, realizing they were the first people in 3,300 years to see the truth. The entire field of Egyptology was about to be turned upside down. First, the face. The quantum scan showed what the team called thermal ghosting all around the edge of the mask's face. This is a telltale molecular signature that the gold in that exact outline had been superheated to a different temperature than the gold of the headdress. Christian Ekman was right that soldering would have cracked the glass, but the ancient artisans didn't solder it from the front. They attached it from behind, using a method of high-pressure heating that left the front flawless. The X-rays missed it, but the quantum scan saw the molecular stress. The face had been cut out and replaced. Second, the ears. The scan on the earlobes was even more shocking. The X-rays saw solid gold. The quantum scan found two perfect cylindrical plugs. The ancient craftsmen had plugged the original pierced holes with rods of gold from the exact same alloy. They then hammered and polished them with such mastery that the seams became invisible. But the quantum scan picked up the difference in the metal's grain and density. The ears had been plugged. But the craziest part, the discovery that shocked the entire team, was the name. The X-ray scan saw only Tutankhamun's name, but the quantum scan looked deeper at the atomic displacement beneath the surface. It found that the gold in that spot had been hammered, flattened, and scraped in a way the rest of the mask had not. The original hieroglyphs had been beaten into oblivion, and the quantum scanner could do one more thing. By mapping the faint microscopic traces of the original hammering, the ghosts of the first inscription, the computer could digitally reconstruct what was once there. The team ran the program. The original hieroglyphs slowly appeared on the screen. It was not Tutankhamun. The name was Nefer-Neruin. This was the smoking gun. Nefer-Neruin-Aten is the official throne name that Queen Nefertiti is believed to have used when she became pharaoh. The Nefertiti theory wasn't just true, it was now proven. The quantum scan revealed the full dramatic story. When King Tut died suddenly, there was no mask ready.
His powerful successor, I, likely stole Tut's grand tomb for himself. Panicked and on the 70-day deadline, the priests grabbed the burial mask of the previous pharaoh, Nefertiti. They went to work in a hurry. They plugged her pierced ears. They ordered a new face of the boy king to be made. They skillfully cut out Nefertiti's face and attached Tut's in its place. Finally, they hammered her royal name flat and recarved it with his. The mask now sits in the new museum seen by millions, but now we know the truth. It makes you wonder what other solved mysteries are just waiting for the right technology to expose the real story. What do you think of this discovery? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more secrets from history.